I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, March the 23rd, brought to you in part by Performance Livestock Analytics. Performance Beef, with real-time access from anywhere, the easy-to-use platform simplifies everything from feeding to financials. Tumultuous times, and you guys know it as well as I do. This coronavirus is just unprecedented. None of us have ever seen anything like it, and it's just hard to believe. Everything is canceled. People can't hardly go out of their homes. We can't get together. We can't do this. We can't do that, and we don't see an end in sight. Not exactly sure what we have to look forward to here. We can't seem to get a control on this thing, and we don't have enough test kits to test every person, or we could do what South Korea does and just go to door to door testing everybody, and anybody that's positive just drag them out of there kicking and screaming. Or maybe we have to sit and wait for a vaccine, which could take 6 months, and then if we got something like that pushed through, which they say they're pushing as fast as they can, then they could run us all through the chute, whether we want to or not. But I don't see any other way that we can get out of it. Maybe as the temperatures warm up this summer, we can get more of a control on it, but we really can't count on anything, and we can't make any plans. And it's just turned our economy upside down. Our cattle business for sure is turned upside down. It's just it's a crazy world out there. I drove from my home in the Texas Panhandle all the way up to Utah over the weekend to cover a bull sale for DV Auction here, and it's just weird out there, guys. And I could have flown, but they would have ended up canceling my flight anyway. But I was about half scared to fly up there with everything that's going on, but drove all the way. And I tell you what, it's just unbelievable. You just drive through a town, and it's like the apocalypse come through, or like that show that they had when I was a kid, The Day After, that was meant to scare everybody. It's just, you don't see a human out mingling around when you go through these smaller towns, and the big towns are not much better. It's really a scary deal out there, and about all the traffic you see out on the wide open spaces are trucks, and we've got to keep our trucks going. We've got to keep our truckers out there because we still need goods and services, including food and all the other things that we use, and we've got to keep our roads open and keep the truckers out there. But I tell you what, one thing I noticed, which is going to be tough on these truckers, is when duty calls, there's no place to duty. There's no restaurants open. They've closed a lot of these rest stops. Many of the truck stops are open, but you're hearing now that they're going to close several of them up. A lot of your service islands on your big wide open toll roads, like up through the Kansas Turnpike, going to be closing those, we hear, before too long. And a lot of other filling stations and truck stops are starting to be closed up. Maybe they can't find people to work in them that don't want to come into contact with that many people. But it's quite a time out there. Like my friend Jackie Moore said, he said if they do shut all the restrooms down, it won't bother the bull haulers as much as it will a lot of them. And I'll agree with that. But it's tough out there, and they need to make life as normal for those truck drivers as they can. But all the things that have happened since the very tail end of last week through the weekend, and you guys know the story, but I'm going to retell it with some particulars. But we started out at the beginning of this past week, and word had spread from all your cash sellers that they were going to wait for $1.15. We'd started to see the panic buying from your people that were being quarantined, and everybody getting away from being social interaction, and so it became evident that we're going to be shut-ins, and they're cleaning out the shelves in all your stores. And what's one of the quickest things to go, maybe besides toilet paper, was your meat, and especially your beef. And you talk to anybody that goes in there, your hamburger meat first, and then all your other beef items. There was still some pork and chicken left in most places. That was the next to go. And then finally your fake meat products, which nobody will eat that. But so we saw that cleaning out of your beef shelves starting to happen, and guys said, we're going to wait for $1.15. And the word spread, I mean, through text, email, messaging, that we were going to hold for $1.15. All your cash sellers are going to hold for $1.15. Monday morning by 9 o'clock, we already had basis jumpers puking their cattle at $1.05, which would have been $5 lower. I guarantee you, the cash guys cannot get together. They would pull a knife on each other if they thought it would help them out a little bit. But you know, some guys selling, and there wasn't a whole lot, but significant trade at 105 early on Monday morning. Unbelievable. Guys were so mad they couldn't see straight. Of course, then your packers were wanting to buy more cattle that way, and for the most part, everybody else kind of held back. But yeah, there was a big basis there because we had our nearby live cattle spot futures way down in the low 90s there. Yeah, that was a big basis there, but you've got to try as hard as you can to sell these cattle. Yeah, if you're protected on the other side, great. Your protection's that much better if you can sell your cattle halfway decent. But by Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday, they got the market at least back up to steady with the previous week, selling most of the cattle at $1.10 and 175. There was some 170 earlier there with that 105, and even some 103 on some deals up in the northern plains. Some guys that jumped at the basis, but. So we saw that happen, and then we saw a little bit more competition come in because the orders for beef were just so much that every day your box beef cutout values just jumped and jumped and jumped. Big bites and big loads, a lot of movement. That's your real test of the market on your cutout values, was how much volume you can do, tons of volume. And so by the time we got to Wednesday morning, with the Fed Cattle Exchange, your online fat cattle auction, then we saw what they could really do. And we saw prices up to 113, 111 to 113, and the weighted average on the 1,400 head or so that they sold there was 112.76. Pretty impressive. There was a lot of cattle that went unsold on there, but they did tip their hand. And why more people won't entertain that type of an auction, I don't know, but it really helps. If we could get that deal going, I think it would be great. But it's probably its best week they had on there. They had several cattle on there. Didn't sell as many of them as they'd like to, but it did tip the hand and show what your packers would do. So then we started seeing more trade at that 111, 112, some 113. Direct to follow that Fed Cattle Exchange, and then some 175 to 177 dressed. But still way under the market. You know, our box beef cutout values had increased so much, 47.74 from last Friday to this Friday through the week. That was an increase on top of what they were already making, your packers, an increase of an extra $400 for an average size carcass there. Unbelievable. They were already making big money before that. But, you know, guys were just really disgusted. There was a lot of kind of upheaval within the industry, and guys were mad and wondering why we didn't do this and why we didn't do that. And then late in the week, we saw a little bit of change that was brought on from some of your cattlemen's associations, some individuals sending in emails, making phone calls to their Congress people, their senators and things like that. We had a push through the week to try to get the Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue, to do some stuff. And Sonny Perdue has been getting a terrible rap here in the last year or so. I mean, people are unhappy with him, haven't been able to get some things done, haven't been able to get anything enacted. He's said some things and had some quotes that's upset some people, and you know, one of his famous quotes there, you know, in agriculture, you either get big or you get out, and nobody wanted to hear that. The hell of it is maybe it's kind of like Jack Nicholson, you know, you can't handle the truth. And nobody wants to hear that. What we'd rather see him do is try to make changes and enact some things that'll keep our smaller producers viable and keep them in business and let them hold on to their ranches, their farms, their small businesses there. And we saw him do something this week. He was pushed and prodded, like I said, from several entities, and announced that he was going to do an investigation. And we kind of rolled our eyes a little bit, because we remember the last time he just said that he was going to do an investigation, and he got the packers and stockyards to do it. Well, the PNS doesn't get anybody excited, you know. And so, but this time he said it was going to be DOJ, Department of Justice. Well, that meant something totally different. Well, by the end of the week, you had DOJ people in there making calls, poking around, doing this and that. And by the end of the week, we heard that Tyson had decided to give a bump to everybody that have cattle scheduled for this week to die on their schedule in the 6 beef packing plants that they have. Well, that was great. You know, a $5 bump live price there, and on a dress basis, $7.94, which equates to about the same thing. And even on your formulated cattle, your grid cattle, all the cattle that are scheduled to die this coming week. Well, that was great, but at the same time, we don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but people are kind of looking back like, that's a little bit of patronizing there. So how much are you guys making? Well, we said that they gained an extra $400 just on their box beef cutout values just last week, on top of what they were making before. I mean, making money hand over fist, and then they decide to throw their producers an extra $70 a head or so. And yeah, it was a kind of a slap in the face too, but they're the only ones that did it. We had some rumors of some of the other packers going to come out and do it, and some of them are having meetings, and we'll likely hear that more of them will follow suit. But why did they do it? Was it out of the kindness of their heart? Was it the shame that they saw when everybody was evident that everybody knew how much extra money they were making, and they were getting cattle bought cheaper than they were before, or at steady at best? What was it? Maybe it was some of these DOJ calls that started coming around, and it's amazing the initiative that it'll give you, the drive it'll give you to change things. But those DOJ guys, they carry guns and they carry badges, and nothing scares criminals more than that. And when they come in and started doing that, all of a sudden things started happening. Tyson was kind of on a hot seat anyway, following the fire that happened in one of their packing plants there in Holcomb, Kansas last summer, and we saw a market crisis happen then. We're in another market crisis. The packers took advantage of the last market crisis, and PNS is still fumbling around with that investigation like Mr. Magoo. But shit starts happening whenever DOJ gets in there. And fear of incarceration and fear of big-time fines will prompt you to do quite a bit of stuff. And not sure which one of those things it was that made them do it, but they were able to send out a press release that made them look like a hero. And but we still have to say, Tyson was the only ones that did it so far. Now, we should see some others follow suit this week, you would think. But guys will remember it if they don't. But unbelievable how that's happened. On Saturday morning, which sometimes we do see some trade on Saturday morning, there were rumors of 121 had traded. And my phone blew up, and everybody knew about it, that they had heard that 121 had traded in the Southern Plains. But then the Southern Plains guys said it was the Northern Plains. The Northern Plains guys said it was the Southern Plains. They all knew it happened, or thought they knew it happened, but they could not confirm it. They didn't know which packer it was. They didn't know any producers that actually sold it that way. I was the same way. I hunted all the contacts I could find up. I could not confirm the 121 that supposedly happened on Saturday morning. Then we kind of gave up on it. And I think that 121 rumor had a lot to do with a release that came out about some proposed legislation that we're looking at, mostly pushed by Senator Rounds from South Dakota. We'll see how much legs that deal gets, but supposedly it was going to try to put basically a floor under your fed cattle at 121. I think that's probably where the 121 come out, and $150 on feeder steers. So not sure how that's going to work, not sure if they can get the money up to do that, not sure where they come up with the 121 or the 150. That was probably, that 121 might have been close, but that 150 is probably better than what we were getting before all this stuff started. But we'll see if that deal goes through. I know they've been trying to get some indemnity deals going to help our producers. The small producers really need it, your small feeders, your independent feeders. But the heck of it is, if you're going to give it to them, you got to give it to the big corporate feeders too, and the basis jumpers and everybody else. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but there's guys out there that if they don't get some help over this deal, it's going to put them out of business. And it's just like your bars and restaurants and your small business, service businesses and everything that's been shut down through this coronavirus deal. It's really a bad deal. And another reason that we might have had 121 rumors is, for some reason, your USDA Market News Service, late in the week, the reports that they had up on the fat cattle, on the box beef, on everything that everybody was really excited about, and probably people looking at those reports more than ever, they had February 21st out instead of March. And, and I've looked at those things for the last 30 years. I can preach them to you backwards and forwards. I used to put those reports out. Made me go cross-eyed when I looked at them too. And there was some 121 on some of those reports, and that could have been some of the confusion there. How they could screw that up at a time when people really needed that information, I'm not sure how. But what else happened on Friday? We had another area of the USDA, another group is NASS, National Ag Statistics Service. They put out a cattle on feed report on Friday. It was neutral to maybe a smidge friendly. Your average of the analyst guess was right on. The only place that they missed it was just 1 percentage point, and that was on the friendly side of the placement. So your on-feed inventories March 1st come out at 100.2 and they had guessed 100.4. Your February placements come out at 92.1. They had guessed 93.1, so that's close and even friendly. And your marketings during February come out at 105.5 and they had guessed 105.4. So that's definitely not going to hurt us, but the cattle on feed report didn't have a chance to attack this market the way things are so up and down and tumultuous. And you look at the board for last week, was just a joke. Up the limit one day and down the next. And the bad thing is our industry is kind of looking at that for price discovery, when the hell of it is, it's nothing more than a gambling hall. And it's kind of a shallow one at that. So if you get any big money investors in there, they just drive that thing. But let's look at your board for last week. April live cattle futures. Monday was down 372. Tuesday was up $4.50, the limit. Wednesday was down $4.25. Thursday was up the $3 limit. Friday was up $3.55. Finally ending up at $98.65, which was up $3.08 for the week. Your June ended the week at $89.52. Down 23 cents for the week. March feeder cattle, it was even worse. Monday down to $4.50 limit. Tuesday extended limits, it was up $5.05. Wednesday down 97. Thursday up the $4.50 limit. Friday up $3.65. And March feeder cattle contracts ended the week at $120.72, up $7.72 for the week, which was good, but we don't need all that volatility. April feeder cattle, $118.82, up $6.22. I talked about your fat cattle market. Like I said, they didn't have the right reports out end of the week to give you guys much specifics, but Monday we should have the kind of the wrap up of the week's trade. But we started out and we had trade live from 103 all the way to 113 through the week. 103 was very small, but 105 early, 110 for the most part middle of the week, and then late in the week after the Fed cattle exchange put a little competition in the market. We saw it from 111, 112, and then some 113 in there. Your dress sales range from 168 all the way to 177. Your box beef cutout values, and that was the deal. Choice cuts on Friday at $253.75. Huge. That was up $47.74 for the week. Unheard of. We've never seen it go up that much in that short of a time. Your selects at $240.17. There was a $13.58 spread there. And the load volume, 1,175 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. A big week is 700 loads, and we had 1,175 loads. Unbelievable. Your dressed weights, your actual information that come in for March the 7th, the week ending March the 7th, dressed steer weights was interesting. 903 pounds for an average dressed steer weight for that week. That was 28 pounds heavier than a year ago and 24 pounds heavier than the 5-year average. But we're moving the meat that good. Your slaughter for last week, 653,000, 20,000 bigger than the previous week and 17,000 bigger than the same week a year ago. The main reason for that was a 70,000 head Saturday. And that, I mean, they're just scrambling to try to fill these orders to get product back on there because of all this panic buying. People are just cleaning everything out. But let's look at your feeder cattle markets, which were just as crazy. Your real-time index on DB auction there, 121.48. That was down $5.55 for the week. Look how close it is to your CME cash feeder cattle index. The latest available was 121.38, so just 10 cents off of that. But and I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Lonnie Peets. They finally found somebody permanent to take the position that I had with USDA going on 6 years ago that can actually do the job there, running the Missouri Federal State Program, doing the National Feeder Cattle Summary and the local reports there. But he had a very, very good National Feeder Cattle Summary on Friday. If you guys get a chance to read it, and I got some information off of it. So your feeder cattle receipts through the week last week were the lightest non-holiday receipts on record since I changed that report up in 2002, and it now has all the receipts that are collected all over the United States. It didn't before. Okay, so the lightest non-holiday feeder cattle auction receipts ever, and then you know what the second lightest was 2 weeks after the fire, the Tyson Fresh Meats fire there in Holcomb, Kansas. So we see how this market crisis, whenever we have these deals, affects things. And feeder cattle are getting backed up now, but as good as we're moving the fat cattle, it'll trickle down, and it should get quite a bit better here in the near future. But cash feeders, well, if you look at the lightest receipts we've had on a non-holiday week, they weren't well tested, but sharply lower. And it was bad to start out the week. It was bad through the middle part of the week. But by Thursday, after we had seen all these pictures of these empty beef shells, and your packers had tipped their hand that they were short bought and they needed some product, we started to see a little bit of your market come back in like your Thursday sales and Winter Livestock in Pratt, Kansas, and places like that. So we started to see it come back around. I want to give you guys some individual quotes that happened on Friday and mostly Saturday, but let's look at some of them. Bluegrass Stockyards, Campbellsville, Kentucky. On Saturday, they had a good sale there. 64 head of 752-pound steers bring $122.60 in Campbellsville, Kentucky. Also, they had a hell of a cow and bull sale. I haven't talked about that because I've been talking about so much, and I know you guys don't have time to listen to everything, but these cows have gone straight up. These cow and bull killers, they've run out of product because the runs have been so light in the auctions, and they are scrambling for cows. And we knew that they'd put a lot of cows on feed. They've already emptied those sources out and looking for cows. I talked to some guys around, and there was some big prices on cows. I mean, almost $1 a pound live on cows. Like 96, 97 cents standing in the ring on a good thick cow there. But in Campbellsville, Kentucky there, talked to my buddy Jay Romine, and he was there, had a bull bring $119. Live price standing in the ring, guys. Now, he's a big, heavy muscled, nice bull without a lot of fat on him, but I tell you what, don't give your cows and bulls away. They're worth a lot of money, and maybe you can kind of shore things up if you've got some way up cows and bulls to sell, because they are worth a lot of money. You don't want to give them up too quick, but you don't want to wait until it's over. You got to hit the high time, and it's going to be here in the next few weeks. Lake Cumberland Livestock Market, Somerset, Kentucky. Tell you what, they had a lot going on in Kentucky, but not very many horse races going on. 74 head of 758-pound steers at Lake Cumberland Livestock Market bring $129.50. Fort Scott Livestock Market in Fort Scott, Kansas. Man, they can have sales on Saturday. And they've just come right through this big market crisis, having some of the best quotes all week. And you look at this quote on Saturday at Fort Scott Livestock, Fort Scott, Kansas, 61 head, 877-pound steers, $122. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, for the way things are, that's very, very impressive. And then how about Bloomington Livestock Exchange, Bloomington, Wisconsin on Friday, 97 head of 578-pound steers weighing close to 6, $165.75. And that's your feeder flash for Monday.